The Apostle Paul was writing some encouraging words to some other Christ followers, and he said, "I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I have learned the secret of being content." Dictionary.com says that being content means being in a state of peaceful happiness. So Paul says he's learned the secret of being in a state of peaceful happiness in any and every situation. So let's review some of those situations that Paul has been in up to this point in his life. He was beaten several times within an inch of his life. He had false charges brought up against him and was put in prison a few times, once for at least 2 years. In one of his darkest moments, all of his friends deserted him. In 1 Corinthians, Paul said, "I have been exposed to death again and again. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was pelted with stones. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a night and a day in the open sea. I've been constantly on the move. I've been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger in the city, in danger in the country, in danger at sea, and in danger from false believers. I have labored and toiled and have often gone without sleep. I have known hunger and thirst and have often gone without food. I have been cold and naked. Besides everything else, I face daily the pressure of my concern for all the churches." Now, I wouldn't call that a state of peaceful happiness, would you? So Paul, what's your secret? I want to know. How can I be peaceful when the situations I sometimes find myself in are the exact opposite? And these challenging situations can make us feel confused, stuck, even angry, because we don't understand why God would even have us in them to begin with. We wonder why we have to go through such a tough time when maybe others don't seem to be struggling ever. And we question maybe whether or not God cares for us or if He even knows what He's doing. And we know we need help. We know we need something, anything to get us through this, but we have absolutely no idea what to do about it. What is the secret? And no one is naturally content when faced with difficult circumstances. It's just as Paul said, it's a secret that is learned. If Paul was able to learn contentment, so can we. And that's the first thing to understand about Paul's secret. It's learned. There's no way I can ever just acquire contentment from a book or by someone telling me, like it's some power-up on a video game. It's a process that must be lived out. Paul learned to be content while he suffered through shipwrecks, beatings, torture, imprisonment, when all of his friends deserted him. It was in this difficulty that God transformed him completely. In the book of James, we find these words of encouragement as we live out our contentment. "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance." Another part of Paul's secret is what he bragged about. Here's what I mean. In 2 Corinthians, Paul writes this, "But God said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong." When I look weak, God makes me strong. See, many times the problem with my contentment is that I'm so focused on achieving things myself, on looking good to others on the outside. We like to boast about our strengths. Usually, we are the happiest when other people notice how good we have it. But Paul, he was doing the opposite. He wanted to always rely on God's strength, not his own. Paul also believed that if people noticed him being good instead of God being great, then it was a loss. It was a distraction. Paul's contentment also came from his ability to focus on God's promise for his future. For Paul, changing his current situation wasn't necessarily his first priority. When he was in prison, he didn't do what might have been my first instinct. He didn't pray to not be in prison anymore. He prayed for other people. Making bad things just go away and good things magically appear, it might bring a temporary relief, but the satisfaction will just be sporadic and fleeting. Paul knew that being content is all about mindset. It's how I think, not about changing what I have or what is happening to me. His inner calm came from his mind and heart being completely set on God's promises. He wrote these words in Philippians 1:20, "And I trust that my life will bring honor to Christ, whether I live or die. For to me, living means living for Christ, and dying is even better. But if I live, I can do more fruitful work for Christ. So I really don't know which is better. I'm torn between two desires. I long to go to be with Christ, which would be better for me by far. But for your sakes, it is better that I continue to live. Did you catch that? The only reason Paul wanted to stay alive was so he could help other people. He knew that it didn't matter what was happening in his life right now. He was certain about his future. And he would have suffered 1,000 times more if it would help someone else see that same future. As we wrap up this series, Blast Your Past, it's important that we find healing from God for the things that we've done and the things that have happened to us. We talked about how God can help us overcome our failures and the labels we've been given, how He can bring healing to our relationships, and finally, He also wants us to view our current situation with eyes that are fixed on our ultimate purpose in life. The secret to being content is knowing that our only purpose on this earth is to worship God and help others find their way back to Him. If we have any other plans for our future, any other purpose, anything else that we think we need to make us happy, then no matter how hard we try, we will always end up wanting more. We will never be content. See, the reality is, God could fix every problem you have in your life right now, and you still wouldn't be happy. You would still want more, better, happier. And Paul knew this. But if my purpose, my only purpose, is to worship God and help others find their way back to Him, then I now have a new perspective, an eternal perspective, and a miraculous feeling of contentment that can only come from God.
If you're lost and alone, or you're sinking like a stone, carry on. May your past be the sound of your feet upon the ground. Carry on.